Alrighty. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to some more Malice Reacts. Tonight, we're doing Paranormal Files. Look at this shirt. I finally get to wear this. I will say a couple weeks ago we did miss out. I dropped the gun and figured it was just going to be a true crime thing. Check out the Jack the Ripper video. It's actually really good, and actually about half of it is technically a paranormal investigation, trying to communicate with the possible victims and other eyewitnesses of the Jack the Ripper murders. And possibly even contact with the menace himself. But today is a slightly different one. This is a little bit more on the true crime thing again, but it definitely heavily hints at it being paranormal, as it's a sacrificial castle we're trying to investigate this time. So, knock on wood, I've not been jinxed. And this will be actual paranormal investigations here. So, let me double check what the title of this thing is again. Torture Castle, the most disturbing video I've ever filmed. Blood harvesting and human sacrifice. Let's see here. Is there anything in the description? Advertisement for his thingy this week. In France, there is an incredibly dark hidden secret that only the wealthiest, darkest members of society know about. It's a stream used for human sacrifice. So, Conspiracy Files. Subscribe to the Conspiracy Files and the Conspiracy Files whenever you get your podcasts. This is a bit of another conspiracy thing again, actually. Shoot, how far into it are they? They're about an hour in. You know what, it is on location stuff, so I get the feeling there probably will be some sort of ghost hunting. So we're going to allow it, and we're going to skip the ad one that's going to pop up here shortly. So let's go.
Of society.
So the guy that's living here is murdering people.
Yeah.
And he's videotaping him torturing and murdering them.
Yeah.
He's connected to a Luciferian sorcerer.
Yeah.
He's living next to a sacrifice ground.
Yeah.
He finally gets arrested for all this, and before he can give any information, he kills himself.
Yeah.
And he's living on the grounds of one of the most famous palaces
Exactly.
in France.
So, or maybe they're still alive, maybe they're watching this video, you never know.
There are just some places in the world that seem evil, and this chateau is one of them. But for now, we're going to focus on this parcel of land right next to this castle in France. Now, let's head over to Google Earth. Let's zoom in and take a look. I'm going to see if you guys notice anything. This land is owned and connected to the castle. And what is that? Well, it's a pentagram or pentacle, made of a tree line and some other things. I mean, that's pretty strange, right? Must be just on Google Earth. Nope, it's also on Google Maps, where you can see a clearer definition of the shape. Apple Maps shows the exact same thing. It seems to be an inverted pentacle or a pentagram of sorts, with the downward tip facing the chateau. I'm assuming that's the orientation that these people who put this there wanted it to be seen by. It's something that you wouldn't notice if you visited this castle during the day. In fact, it's something that only the constructors of this facility would even know exists in the first place. And that's because this castle is evil. In today's documentary, you're going to hear the whistleblower who we interviewed, Nico, referring to a group he calls the Brotherhood. The Brotherhood is a very famous, very large organization, but he didn't feel comfortable stating their name outright. Now, we never allege that all members of a certain group are evil, but in every group, there are always a few bad apples.
Very true.
So, without further ado,
at least a few bad.
Let's dive into the darkness.
Today I want to talk to you about a really cool service that I believe in, My Heritage. This is a
We are in the gardens, the Royal Gardens.
Nico.
This place is one of the most famous castles in France, the second.
Again, before we keep going with this, since we skipped the other ad, because again, I'm not sure if I'm even able to allow this kind of ads onto my own version of the video. Again, check out their merch. You can find their the original video in the links in my description, and you can find their merch linked on their video. Continuing on.
Most well known, the first one being Versailles, and it was the home of Napoleon. Napoleon used to come here between two wars. It was also a castle that was used by many kings of France. And I will show you around, show you a few things, and show you a few suspicious things.
Well, we like suspicious things.
Yeah. So there's one thing that's really interesting about the castle is the number of statues of pagan gods. And you will tell me that for a Renaissance castle is quite normal, because the Renaissance was about the rebirth of the art of Rome and Greece. But what's interesting is the choice of gods. For example, over there you get a statue of Diana, the god of hunting, which is there. There's other gods and goddesses. When you know about ancient history and mysteries of the past, and when you've studied those kind of things, and you studied sacrifice in human history, they make sense. That's what I'm going to tell you. There's one statue especially that makes sense to me. For visitors, they might not understand what it's about, but I will tell you all about when we see the statue.
Okay, doke.
There's a very nice statue, though.
This is the symbol of the castle. It's a salamander. You see?
Uh-huh.
Okay. The salamander is a symbol often used in alchemy. So this place, this castle, the castle of Fontainebleau, is for people who believe in alchemy and alchemical symbols. It's a really important place.
So what is alchemy, to explain to people who might not know?
Alchemy is the art of using certain ingredients to create other ingredients. So that's what now we call chemistry.
Yeah, nowadays we
But
normally
back
call
in
it
the
chemistry,
days,
but rumors
in
of what it
medieval
was
times,
used
alchemy was about turning basic elements into gold.
for. That's what the main one I'm
That
aware
was
of.
one of the goals of alchemy. But it was also turning, for example, blood into something that would bring them use. So there were famous stories. For example, there was an aristocrat during the 15th century called Gilles de Rais, a French aristocrat, who killed more than 300 children in his castle. And he had this alchemist that would use this blood to create a potion so that he would stay young. So that's one of the stories that's associated with alchemy. You get also the famous story of Elizabeth Bathory in Hungary. She was known to bathe with blood, so she would stay young. Alchemy, of course, has been used for many positive things, but also some very dark things. And I think the salamander, is a very dark symbol.
And what about the salamander? Why does that represent alchemy?
So it's an important notion in alchemy. The Brotherhood, I'm telling you about, one of their main phrases is, "Through fire you will be reborn." And that's what the salamander is about. Through fire you will be reborn. Which means that for the initiate, fire and burning certain things is a way to rejuvenate. That's very important in the things I'm going to show you next, because this is what they do believe in. And it's important to say that even if we don't believe in those things, for them it has a meaning, and that's what the most important is. Because when you want to expose those things, you have to try to understand what's going on in their mind.
It's a weird looking symbol.
Yeah. So let me remind you that this place, the Castle of Napoleon, is important for the Brotherhood, because Napoleon is a person, even though it's not known if he himself was part of the Brotherhood, but his brother was. His brother was part of the Brotherhood. He was a 33rd degree member. And what's interesting is that Napoleon, during his reign, he actually put the Brotherhood back to its former power. The Brotherhood was more or less persecuted during the French Revolution. A few years later, when Napoleon came into power, he installed new laws to protect the Brotherhood. That's very important because for the Brotherhood, this is a central place of power. So Colin, I'm going to show you a place now. First I'm going to show you a place, then I will tell you a bit more about what's going on in that place. The statues, you will see, they've been there for 6 months now. They've been commissioned by the people in charge of this place. We are arriving. And
Oh, what the?
yeah,
What the?
yeah, here we are.
6 months these have been here.
This is the place that I wanted to show you.
They've
only been here for 6 months?
So those statues, they've been there for 6 months now, and they've been commissioned to a French artist. From what I know, they cost 100,000 each, so that's quite a lot of money. The official version is that there are statues of Celtic gods. Lug, which is a god of light and a god of fire, which incidentally gave its name to Lucifer. And the other goddess in front of Lug is Gaia, which is the goddess of earth. And I will tell you more about why the statues are here and what is this fountain about.
It's a pretty creepy fountain, man.
Yeah.
What the?
Maybe we can I'm going to show you something. So when I was telling you about statues of pagan gods, one of the most important here, and which has the most significance for me, is that they have a statue of Mitra, the god Mitra. So if you don't know, the god Mitra was a very important god during the Roman times. The cult of Mitra was extremely popular
I know the name.
among gladiators, for example, or fighters of the legion.
Oh,
He was a
god.
warrior god, but also a sun
in
god.
Conan.
And the cult of Mitra was based on sacrifice. Mitra, the god, sacrificed a bull, and by doing this sacrifice, he became more or less immortal. That's very important when you know what's going on in the fountain nearby. Why would they have this statue here? There's no other statues of Mitra in any other castles in France that I know of. This is the only statue that they have
Very
right
strange.
there in
Very
the
strange
castle,
version of
just
Mitra
a few
too.
feet away from the fountain.
Yeah, the fountain's once again right over there.
Right there, right there. If we have a look, you see Mitra sacrificing a bull. There's something you have to understand about human sacrifice. The history of human sacrifice in humanity most of the time is linked to the worship of the sun. So you get that in South America with the Mayas, the Incas, but also in Persia, in ancient Rome. All over the world, the sun gods have been associated with human sacrifice. You would sacrifice humans for the crops, so that you would have good crops, you would have good fortune, etc. For the Brotherhood, Mitra is a very important deity. It's part of their rituals. They say his name a few times during the rituals. Mitra is an essential part of the Brotherhood's pantheon, if you will.
So Mitra is actually in reference to the Brotherhood. They acknowledge Mitra?
Yeah, they do acknowledge Mitra. They acknowledge different sun gods that are mentioned. There's another very intriguing entity that is often mentioned in Brotherhood rituals. It's Tubal Cain. Okay, let me tell you about Tubal Cain. Tubal Cain, you see this name in the Bible. Is one of the offsprings of Cain. Cain, who killed his own brother Abel. And if you know your Bible well, you know that the lineage of Cain is cursed. It's the lineage of the devil, right? Why would they mention Tubal Cain in their rites? And if you do some research on them, if you do some research on their rituals, they often have the name Tubal Cain in their teachings. Tubal Cain is associated with blacksmiths. He's also associated with fire. It's a fire god, basically. There's another god that they mention, it's Moloch. You probably also have heard the name Moloch from the Bible. Moloch would be a dark god that they would sacrifice children to in the Bible, all right? Those two names, they are pronounced in some of the rituals that the Brotherhood uses for initiates. So it's not the lower initiates. And it's important to say, most people who join the Brotherhood, who are part of the Brotherhood, they don't know about all this, all right? Those are the upper echelons. When you move in, you have rituals, you're introduced to an upper echelon, a degree, and they reveal you some mysteries that they don't tell to the simple initiates. The more you get in the hierarchy, the more you learn about the history of the Brotherhood, and the more you hear about new names. Tubal Cain. Eblis is another name that's often used in the rituals of the Brotherhood. Eblis is another god of fire. It's also known as Satan for Islam. It's commonly used, for example, in the Satanic Bible, there's invocations to Iblis. There's another formula that you find in the Satanic Bible that's used by the Brotherhood. It's Shemam Forash. Okay? Shemam Forash is an old incantation that probably comes from the Kabbalah, that is used by the Brotherhood for their rituals too. And also, it's in the Satanic Bible. It's an incantation to dark energies. Mitra, the cult of Mitra, is mentioned in rituals of the Brotherhood too. And it's obvious that they have statues in their holy grounds. This is a holy ground of the Brotherhood. As I told you, this castle right there was the castle of Napoleon, who was a man who did a lot of good for the Brotherhood. So again, there's a bigger picture behind this.
I'm starting to see it.
It's dots that you connect. This is the place I wanted to show you. This fountain here, it's a fountain that dates back from the Celtic times. It was a fountain dedicated to the Celtic god.
Going back over there,
Belanus.
lots of people around.
So I want to stop you.
Yeah.
This fountain has been here, this actual
yeah.
fountain, since the Celtic times?
Yeah, the fountain itself, not of course the statues, the masonry, but the water and the source, because it's a source. It's actually a source that streams all the way to the lake that you've seen, and even further. And the name of this town, Fontainebleau, is based on this source. But before that, when all this was just forest, this was a sacred fountain for the Celts and the Druids. And this is one of the places where they would actually practice human sacrifice. As I told you, human sacrifice is often associated to sun gods. Balanos was a sun god, okay? A sun god that would bring you wealth if you worshipped that sun god. He was associated with agriculture, etc. And use. So the word use is important here because we're talking about the harvesting of organs, right? The serial killer who lived right next to here was bringing harvested organs in this place because it's known as an ancient place of worship. The people behind this castle, the people who own this place, and by owning I do not mean the actual owners, but the people above them, the people from the Brotherhood because this is a huge district of the Brotherhood. You have to understand this region. It's one of the major districts of the Brotherhood. They have a huge lodge here, okay? This fountain is used by them for their rituals. I'm not saying that everybody who's part of the Brotherhood knows about those things. You know, the first levels, the first level, second level, third level, they call green Brotherhood. After that, you get the red Brotherhood, where you have access to more mysteries. They tell you more stories about the history of the Brotherhood and what they actually believe in. This is where they use weird names from the Bible, like Iblis, Tubal-Cain, which normally are associated with demonology. That's what you have to understand. Those are words that are actually invoked during the demonic rituals. Why are they used by the Brotherhood? I don't know. Well, I do know, but you know. Those statues, why are they here? Look at this statue here. If you notice something, the position of this statue and the wound of the statue on the side. Look at this one here. Does it look familiar? Strangely. It's a mockery of Christ. It's a blasphemous statue, okay?
Why would they put that there?
Because they know that blasphemy is a powerful tool in Luciferian magic. That's why they commissioned this statue specifically with this position, the crucifixion, the wound on the flank. This is a representation of Christ as a pagan god. This is the ultimate blasphemy.
And the ram skull. Yeah, it's really bizarre that for a pagan sculpture it looks like Jesus Christ.
It is. For me, it is a representation of Lucifer. And I remind you that this is a statue of Lug. Lug was a Celtic god that gave its name to light. And as you know, Lucifer is the bringer of light in demonology. And in Latin, this is the actual meaning of the word Lucifer, the bringer of light. Here we have a statue of Lug, which later was associated with Apollo in Greece, in Roman mythology, and later on, during medieval times, Lucifer. We have the ultimate god, the real architect of the universe, according to those people, the higher the hierarchy. This is their god. And in front of their god is Gaia, another Celtic god representing Earth. Earth means wealth. You have on one side use and enlightenment, but by enlightenment they mean Luciferian enlightenment. On the other side you have wealth, material wealth, you know. So those statues are there for a reason. They're mocking Christianity, and I think it's obvious. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to actually see it. They are on the place.
You don't need to be
where
a
there
rocket scientist
actually
to realize
was
that those
human
things look
sacrifices during the Celtic
really
times,
unnerving.
in a ground owned by the Brotherhood. I don't want to sound like that I think it's all a conspiracy, that they want, world power or whatever. But when you're into the occult, as I've been in this thing for 30 years. I know the signs, I know the people, I've been told things, I've been asked things. I know a blasphemy when I see one, but not an obvious blasphemy, it's not an upside down cross, you see what I mean? It's more subtle than that, you know what I mean? It's disguised under the pretense of art. It's art. Sometimes art serves a purpose, especially when it's commissioned by rich people.
And you're an artist too.
I'm an artist, I know those things, and I know the importance of, the magical importance of certain art objects. So it can be a statue, it can be a painting, and it can be many things, a book. I think here we have a sculpture that serves a purpose. It's not only about, art and culture. It serves a purpose, a magical, dark, magical purpose. And I don't know for how long they will stay here. It's funny because here, Fontainebleau, for context, it's an extremely Christian town, traditional Christian town. There's a lot of religious people. Some people have complained. Obviously, they have seen the signs. They are aware that something extremely wrong has been
Something very obviously
commissioned
weird and
by
not
the
right
people in
about it,
charge
yeah.
of that place. They don't really understand the meanings, of course, because it demands a little bit of occult background to know the meanings. But they are aware of something going on here. Also, I've been, and you've been, Colin and Connor, you've been to really dark places, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I can tell you that this place, even if it looks beautiful, even if it looks sophisticated, you got this really nice statue. It's a nice place. We've seen people before, they were having a picnic there. See what I mean? They don't feel the dark energy. But when you're connected to those dark energy, when you actually work with them, when you've done rituals, when you've actually practiced black magic, you recognize the black energy. I can tell you, this right there is some kind of vortex of dark energy.
You can feel it, man.
Yeah.
You can feel it just standing here.
Yeah, it's been a vortex for several centuries. It's been used for blood rituals for several centuries. And now, with those two statues, it's like they don't even care anymore. It's like they know that we are approaching something, maybe, I don't know. They just do not hide anymore what their agenda is. I find it interesting myself. I'm not a Christian, of course, so I don't feel any threat from them, but at the same time I despise what they represent, those people, because they give people like me an extremely bad name. Well, I don't really need people to give me a bad name because I already have the bad name. But they use people as me as a gay scapegoat for what they're actually doing. You know, all of those trafficking rings, this snuff movie thing going on. They are the people in charge. They are the people who commission that shit. They are the people who commission the harvesting. And this is a reality. I've known a few serial killer cases where it was not only a question of one single individual committing the murders because of his own cravings, but they were actually commissioned to do the murders. So there's a few cases like that. And I know that those people are behind that.
So you think when the gates close here at night, occasionally,
Yeah.
they are coming out here to perform human sacrifices.
Where
Yeah.
no one
This
can see them
exact spot.
because the
Yeah.
gates are all closed and no one's
The
allowed in.
Festival of Log is on August 1st. Festival of Log. Log is this god, right? This is on August 1st. Beltane, which is the major festival of Belanus, which is the god which was worshipped at this fountain, the Celtic god, is on May the 1st. If you know a little bit about the occult, on April the 31st, there's Walpurgisnacht, which is the night before. So this is a time in the year when all those very intense energies, they happen, they make things happen. So there's probably gatherings here in that place during those days, maybe on Samhain too. I don't really think, because we are talking about people who worship the sun. So when you don't know much about the occult and pagan gods, etc., you think that worshipping the sun is a good thing. You have to understand that for some people, worshipping the sun is not only about, positive things and positive vibes. It's about power. Sun is power, right? For the people who lived centuries before us, their god was the sun. They sacrificed, they killed children to worship the sun. And the sun is associated with the names Lucifer, the names Log, the name Belanus, Mitra, the god Mitra. This is the common link, if you will.
Yeah.
It's the sun gods. Even if they have a dark figure like this, the power behind it is the dark sun, if you will, the dark energy of the sun. The sun that gives you wealth, the sun that gives you youth. Okay. On the other side, you have another type of black magic, which is chthonic magic, the worship of deities of the underground. And Lucifer, Satan, it's not the same entities. Lucifer is the light, enlightenment. So they will tell you, okay, we give you enlightenment. If you worship me, I will give you wealth, will give you and I will give you power, and I will put you on top of the pyramid. Whereas people like me who worship Satan, we are enemies. Satan in Hebrew means the enemy of mankind. So it doesn't mean necessarily that you hate everybody, that would be simplistic, but it means that you do not practice the black arts for power. You do not practice the black arts for domination. This is the Luciferian side of black magic, and for me this is the evil side. This is the people who actually organize human trafficking. This is the people who organize rituals, blood magic. This is the people who have enough money to actually build 2 statues worth 100,000 euros each, and that are in the middle of a clearing that's not really, well, you can actually see it from the outside, but it's not like if it was in the middle of a clearing. See what I mean? So people don't really see it.
If they were trying to hide like these statues, they would have made them in the same kind of style as all the other statues in the park.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So, like, my question is, when these people come out here to sacrifice somebody, what's their goal? Like,
Power.
What are they gaining from it?
Power. They maintain their power. They're already rich. They make sure that they maintain their power. But what they really are after is something that money can't buy. It's use. I mean, okay, you can put all the cream you want on your face and you can have all the surgery you want. It doesn't give you use. Real use is through specific rituals and through the harvesting of blood, and blood that was harvested through fear and pain, torture. That gives a special quality to blood. And this blood, in every single culture that has practiced blood sacrifice, they know that the more pain you inflict on the person you sacrifice, the better it is. It gives you more power. That's what you call adrenaline, okay? And I will not, you probably, if you are interested in those stories about a certain product that's being used or not by wealthy people, that's based on adrenaline, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. Just connect the dots. That's easy. And also, please read books. That's very important. You don't get to that level of knowledge without reading books. You won't find the truth on TikTok. You won't find the truth on random articles you've read online. You have to go to the source. You have to read old books. You have to read stuff about mythology. You have to read stuff about pagan gods. You have to read the Bible, because you can't quote the Bible without reading the Bible. Even I have read the Bible. I know what I'm talking about. So you have to read all the books. You have to build your knowledge and be aware of the signs when you see them. That's important.
And to tie up this whole thing, so when they're doing these sacrifices, it's coming after these people have been tortured and like beaten and abused to drive the adrenaline up.
Yeah.
So that ties into the torture house of the family that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
And the guy literally right there who was torturing people on camera before killing them.
Exactly.
It's literally right there.
It's right there. There's cases, known cases. Maybe I can talk about this guy who was arrested in 1984. That was a while back, but the story is really interesting.
Almost
The story is so
It's a
interesting.
little older.
It inspired a horror movie called Martyrs. It's a horror movie about this girl who escapes from a house. She's been tortured in a house for years. She escapes.
Hold up. I'm going to have you tell this story at your office.
At the house? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's getting dark. At what time is it?
To end this interview,
Yeah.
right here, would you consider this to be like a dark, evil place specifically?
The most evil places on earth, they're not the ones that you think they are. I've been to murder places. I've been to places where there have been so many sacrifices. In Chichen Itza, for example, I've been to those places. I've been to death camps. I've been to places where there is energy, of course, because of all this huge amount of suffering. There's always is energy. But sometimes those places that don't look like the way they're supposed to look like. And it's only when you know about the history, and maybe it's even more suspicious because they try to, put a varnish over it, pretend that it's art, pretend that it's culture, pretend that it's history, but it's all pretend. The source, which is sacred to them, which for them is something that they connect with their search for power, with their search for enlightenment, with their search for use. This fountain, they cannot physically move it in a secret place. It's in the open because, it's there. The castle was built around it, then the city was built around it. They just can't close this area because it's heritage listed. So what they do is that they try to make it look like it's just, a fountain. And people don't notice. But what's very interesting in that case is that I don't think that they did this just for art value. I think this has a very, very deeper meaning, the fact that they actually invested so much in those statues. And those statues, it's so obvious what they represent. So something is going on here. Something happens, it's either here, or maybe, because this, remember, for them, this water is sacred. So I think that they actually mix the blood with the water from the fountain. I think that's what they do.
You think they drank it?
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah, probably.
So they'd stab somebody,
Yeah.
and the blood would go.
Or they put the organs, or they... I cannot tell you exactly what the details would be, but this is the place.
It definitely has a dark
Yeah.
energy.
It's a source of water. All the water from the city comes from here.
Really?
Yeah. Well, not all the water they have,
Yeah.
but every lake, everything you will see, this is the source. So we are, 1 minute away by foot from the
Yeah,
place?
it's
That
literally
is,
right through there.
right there. On the other side of that building, there's military barracks, okay? And there's a gate that I'm going to show you. The gate is closed now, and the place looks abandoned. It's not abandoned, it's still used by the military. In 1988, there was a French serial killer who was called Pierre Chanal. He was arrested there. This serial killer had killed 17 hitchhikers and people who were in the same barracks. Young guys who were 15, 17. He was more like the French John Wayne Gacy, if you will. He would torture them and film the torture. He would torture them inside his van. So the tortures did not happen here. But what the cops think is that he harvested parts of their bodies, brought them here. When they searched his place here, they found hair, fibers, things that were linking that person to those victims. They also found pornography, videotapes, and many suspicious things. I'm going to show you the place. It's right there. So I showed you the fountain. I told you what is going on and has been going on for centuries in that fountain. And now I'm going to show you another connection with a serial killer. Probably used this fountain for, who knows?
Sacrifice, harvesting, murder, all the above.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, should we walk over? Dude, that's so fucking wild.
Yeah, they don't know because this place is heritage listed, so it's open to the public. They can't close it down. But at night, it's heavily guarded. You can't come here at night and check out what's going on in the darkest hours of the night. See what I mean? They have the entire place by themselves. They can do whatever they want. They can do rituals, for example. and they can use the organs that serial killers bring to them. Serial killers who are stationed right next to them. And I don't believe in coincidences, you see. Don't think that I'm a huge conspiracy terrorist and that I'm obsessed with conspiracies. But I've been told things. I've been approached by people. I've been in the satanic underground for more than 30 years now. I know everybody in the scene. And I know what's going on in the upper echelons of society. So we are still in the park of the castle. This right there, this gate, is an entrance to the barracks where this serial killer lived. As you can see, it's easy access, you know, when you have the key. It's a simple lock if you want to look. What I think is that this serial killer used this access to get inside the park and attend the rituals that were there. There's no coincidence. There's no way this very famous serial killer who actually had 17 victims could just accidentally be living right next to a place where this kind of stuff happens. There has to be a connection.
And can you talk about like what you were saying with the VHS, like what happened to them?
So I have a very close, I had, because he passed away 2 years ago. I had a very close friend in the satanic underground, Jean-Paul Bourg. He was a leader of a Luciferian cult called Lucifer Witnesses. He was very active in the 70s, 80s. When I met him, he was in his 60s. I was in my 30s. We talked a lot about what he was doing and the people he knew. For example, he was very active. I don't know if you've heard of this case, the vampire Highgate, the Highgate vampire.
I've been there.
You've been to Highgate,
Yeah.
so there's this famous story in the 70s about the Highgate vampire. My friend was part of one of the cults that was involved in this story. So he was very active in the 70s, very famous in the occult and satanic underground at that time. He had a friend who was a very famous Luciferian sorcerer, which means that it was a person who was actually paid by rich people to actually cast spells, usually death spells, to other people. His name was Octave Sibert, very famous in the occult underground too. He wrote a few books. He wrote a book called The Astrology of the Devil. This person, my friend Jean-Paul, told me that this person was friends with Pierre Chanal. And Pierre Chanal showed him videotapes, snuff films, of the murders that he filmed, the 17 murders that he filmed when he was an active serial killer. He also, according to this person, harvested the organs for people in the Brotherhood. So that's another time when people mentioned the Brotherhood to me and told me that people in the Brotherhood, in the high hierarchy of the Brotherhood, actually commissioned serial killers or people who they knew were actively killing people to do their biddings and to bring them organs. And again, I find it extremely weird that this person was stationed there for 2 years, Pierre Chanal, in a place, and he probably asked to be stationed here because there's so many barracks and military grounds in the area, but he specifically chose that one, and this is where he was arrested, so that he could have access to this place and to the persons who have access to this place at night. So several people told me of his involvement. I got this friend who actually knew that there was a connection between Pierre Chanal and Octave Sibert, again a Luciferian sorcerer who would work for very rich people. He was also the personal counselor and occult counselor of Emperor Bokassa, for example. It gives you an idea of the kind of personalities that gravitated around him. And it's, for me, very telling that this person, this serial killer, committed suicide before his trial. Because he was about to give names. He was about to talk more about his involvement and where the tapes would end up, you know. And mysteriously he committed suicide. I think it was 10 years or something after he was arrested, because here he was arrested for sexual assault and they didn't have evidence enough to link him to the murders, and they had to wait for another 10 years to actually connect the evidence to the murder cases and connect the DNA
grief.
on the fibers that they found at his place here to the murder victims. So in the span of 10 years, so many things might have happened, and I think that this was not a...
Yeah, so
Nope,
the guy
don't
that's
think so
living
either.
here is murdering people,
Yeah,
and he's videotaping him torturing and murdering them.
yeah,
He's connected to a Luciferian sorcerer.
yeah,
He's living next to a sacrifice ground.
yeah,
He finally gets arrested for all this, and before he can give any information, he kills himself.
yeah,
And he's living on the grounds of one of the most famous palaces or chateaus
Exactly.
in France.
So the thing is, you have to connect all the dots. Okay, I'm giving
Too
you
many dots
the
to
connections.
not
I
be
know.
connected
I know
some
that he
way,
was
yeah?
connected to that guy. I know that that guy was connected to the Brotherhood. All this information, of course, the information is in French. The press articles are in French, etc. But you can easily find them online if you want to check out the story of this guy who lived there. See the time lapse when he was arrested, the time lapse where he could have actually met this sorcerer. Everything matches, you know. And I remember when I wanted to do some more research about this story, I stumbled across a forum online. That was a while back. That was must have been 15 years ago. I don't know if the forum is still there. I have to check. But, and that's crazy, it was about people who had survived their encounter with this serial killer. And one of the guys who was
Whoa.
living in the same barracks, who had suffered sexual assault from this guy, he said that he remembers that this guy, the serial killer, had mentioned the name of a Luciferian sorcerer of Magus that he was friends with, and that he would often go to meet in Paris to watch videos. So those two things connect. My friend tells me this 15 years ago, and I was a bit surprised because I knew that case, of course. It's a really well-known case in France. And I was a bit surprised when I learned that he actually was arrested here in this place and that it was next to the sacrificial place. But when I saw the connections with this serial killer and this Luciferian witch, now the dots, they connect.
Right.
Yeah, you start to make, you start to find answers. I don't know. All this will remain a mystery anyways, because the witch is dead, the serial killer is dead, maybe the people who commissioned those tapes and those organs, maybe they're dead too, or maybe they're still alive. Maybe they're watching this video, you never know. Yeah.
Watching, looking.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, this is a sign here. It says military ground, do not enter.
Oh yeah, I can see that they're going to be doing some hunting here in the later portion
So
here.
those are stables because this is a school for horse riders, military horse
Yeah.
riders. I don't know how to explain it. Cavalry?
Yeah.
Yeah, school
There
of
you go.
cavalry. This is a school of cavalry, and it says military grounds, do not enter. And those are stables. So I do not know
crazy.
exactly where his room is or was, but it was in those grounds. It's not that big. It's
After our interview with Nico at the chateau, there were just so many thoughts racing through my mind. How was all of this possible? How is it possible that an infamous torture serial killer was living just a few hundred yards away from an infamous sacrificial spring? And no matter what, you can't deny that these sculptures are incredibly strange. The
Very.
mocking of Christ, the weird orientation of the statues. At minimum, you have to ask, why were these things placed here at a stream that is known to have been a place of human sacrifice? Why do any of these things happen?
And why the weird
I
imagery?
mean, I find it really hard to believe that a serial killer who's committing these crimes in the name of harvesting something, who's known to be tied into a snuff film ring, would just so happen to live next to a spring with such spiritual relevance. And this whole place is dark. This whole place is infested with a sort of darkness that is hard to describe. It's an elite sort of darkness, but it's a darkness that you can feel, not one you can see. It's because these truths of the world are constantly hidden from us, and yet they're shoved right in front of our very eyes. If you walked around the grounds of this castle, you'd have no idea of any of the things that we just discussed in this interview. And it's a hard concept to grasp that a group of individuals could actually be out there sacrificing people for some sort of power, for youth. But this is really happening. These sorts of things happen every day across the world, and no one blinks an eye. It's easier to
Welcome
live a
to the
life of
human
ignorance,
disease.
I've found. But once you've woken up,
Immortality
hard to
is
go back
still
to sleep.
that big search.
now, there is something, though, that I have to tell you that I have not told you throughout this entire documentary. There's a reason why Nico knows so much about human sacrifice and the power of human blood. I'm going to let Nico explain all of this to you himself.
Alrighty.
So I went there, he opened the door, I stepped inside, he closed the door, that's when I pulled out the handgun and I shot him in the face. He fell down and I shot him a few other times in the skull. And it lasted 15 minutes more or less before he actually died because there were small caliber bullets.
That's right, Nico is one of the most famous convicted murderers in all of France, nicknamed the Vampire of Paris because he used to consume human flesh and drink human blood.
I'm Nico Clo, and I was born 52 years ago in Cameroon in Africa. My father traveled a lot because of his work. He worked as an IT for a big bank, French bank. And I was born in Africa, in Cameroon, in 72. So there was this graveyard in Paris. It's a huge graveyard. It's called the Père Lachaise Cemetery. It's like an entire district of Paris. And the first time I was there, I felt very good vibes. And I felt that I belonged there. So I went there on a regular basis. First, I just, would walk between the tombs, have a look at the architecture, the mausoleums, how they looked like from the outside, etc. Then I developed this curiosity of actually seeing what was going on inside, beyond those doors. And I began to actually examine the locks, see if I could open them, tried a few different things. I ended up opening one of those mausoleums and I went inside, found stairs, went down the stairs and I found the crypt where the coffins were. I did this on several occasions and one thing led to another. And I think I was 17, when I started to open a coffin. The idea was to actually steal the bones. I wanted to get the bones for rituals. After a few trials and errors, I managed to open a coffin, find the bones inside, and use them for the rituals that I was following. There was some time where I would just sit in the crypts, light a few candles, and spend 2 hours there just meditating and just in a trance-like state, I would say, and feeling the energy of the dead coming to me. So I had this very organic relationship to the graveyard. I was part of the graveyards and I was receiving all those energies from the people who were buried there. And the natural step, the next step to that was trying to find a job in a morgue. I applied to several morgues and I found work in a morgue. So I learned the basics of doing autopsies, the basics of attending to the funerals, preparing the bodies, dressing them up. I was doing this, and part-time I was working in the blood, well, not the blood bank, I was working in the surgery unit for abdominal surgery. So they needed blood bags for the operations. And there was a system with stickers that you would put on the blood bags, and if you didn't use a blood bag, normally you would have to bring them back to the blood bank. But I managed to find a way to remove the stickers and pretend they had been used, and I would bring the blood bags with me. I would bring them home and I would drink them. So when that's when the actual blood drinking started. After drinking my own blood, I drank from those blood bags. I had the occasion, working in the morgue on the autopsies, being left alone with the dead bodies, and there was tissue from the ribs, abdominal cavity, that usually you would put in the special bins that we have for incineration. And this is when I tried to eat them. The first time I tasted it raw, and then I would bring them home. I would have plastic bags or stuff like that. I would put them in plastic bags, bring them home. I cooked them. Very basic, yeah, but on the pan. Didn't do anything sophisticated, but you know, it kind of became addictive because I had the occasion to do that. I was left alone with the bodies. It gave me a rush, like it was more than psychological, more than it gave me an actual physical rush and an addiction. I would do this like twice or three times a month. I would kind of miss it when I wouldn't be able to do it. So yeah, I developed some kind of addiction towards that. Long story short, I was kicked out of that hospital. The murder fantasies came back. The girl I was dating at the time, she was using a service, an online thing that only existed in France. It was called Minitel. It was some kind of very primitive computer kind of device that you would use to leave messages, and people would answer, and most of it was used for sex work. So my girlfriend at the time, she was a dominatrix, so she would use this to place ads for clients. She would get her clients, go there, and you would use a service via this device. And I was seeing her do that, and it gave me this idea of using that same device to contact somebody. Pretend that I was much younger than I was. I was 22 at the time, and I pretended that I was 16. My idea by doing this is I kind of find a moral justification to kill somebody, and the moral justification was that if that guy is ready to, have sex with a 16-year-old kid, he deserves to die. That was my moral justification. So I did this, and there was this guy who contacted me. I left this ad, pretending I was 16, and on an S&M. It was an S&M site. I had bought this gun a little bit earlier, a 22 caliber handgun, and this guy gave me his address straight away. Straight away, he told me, "Okay, can you come at my place?" It was noon. So I went there, and he opened the door. I stepped inside, he closed the door. That's when I pulled out the handgun and I shot him in the face. He fell down, and I shot him in a few other times in the skull. And it lasted 15 minutes more or less before he actually died, because there were small caliber bullets.
Now, you may be wondering how Nico ties into this whole story, but he was actually contacted by members of this secret society, we'll call it, and they asked him to do their bidding for them. Now, Nico has a pretty well-known reputation in France, so if somebody were looking for a hitman, or somebody they could hire to kill, or somebody that they could hire to do some dirty work for them, Nico would be a guy whose name would immediately float to the top of their lists, and his name has floated to the top of those lists, and he's been asked by representatives of these groups.
Because of my position and what people know about me and the things I've been involved with, I've been several times in my life, I've been contacted by what I would call middlemen. so not the people directly, but people who would work for them, to do certain
I
things
see.
in exchange for, well, each time they would say, we will help you have this, we will help you have that. So, for example, when I got out of prison, I was looking to change my ID papers. I have a new identity because it was kind of hard, as you can imagine, to find work with my name. So I was looking to change names, and there's a process you have to go through the Ministry of Justice in France, and you have to do this. At the time I was going to those fetish parties, they're called. So this is usually in nightclubs, and it's part of the S&M scene. At the times I would go to those places, and I was approached by a person one night who said that he knew about me, and he knew someone who could help me go through the process of changing my name much faster. But it came with certain requirements. So I'm asking what, and he said, yeah, you would have to find stuff for them. And when I asked him, well, what are we talking about? He said, it's people in very high places. And I told him, yeah, there's no way somebody in a very high place would risk having any kind of interaction with me. And he told me, this is why they're sending me. So you don't have any direct contact with them, etc. And asked me what I knew about the Brotherhood. This is what the name I'm going to use for that organization, because this organization is extremely well known. And I'm sure that a few people who are watching this show are part of this organization. They will probably understand what I'm talking about by me using certain words. It's a very well-known, established, occult organization whose aim is to help humanity move forward, and they use words such as progress. They are working for the progress of humanity, let's say. And they are building a temple, the Temple of Solomon. That's the thing. That's when you're an initiate, you just know that it's more or less like a giant network that will help you get through life and get higher positions wherever you work. If you work in government, you get a higher position if you're part of that organization, this Brotherhood. But what they don't know is what the Brotherhood is truly about, and what some high-ranking members are truly about. I'm not saying that everybody in that organization, in that Brotherhood, are doing the things that I know that they are doing, but some of them are, and they use their influence, their political influence, their influence in the high echelons of society, to get what they want. And they're obsessed with two things, power and use. And let's say that they use certain rituals to increase their power and to become, more kind of access immortality in a way, but not immortality as we know it, more like spiritual immortality. So they have those rituals. Okay. In those rituals, they invoke certain names that are associated with sun gods and enlightenment. Some of the gods
Quite
that
the
they
patchwork of
invoke
stuff.
during those rituals, if you know a little bit about the occult, you kind of understand that it's a bit darker than what they pretend it is. Their names associated with demonology. For example, Iblis is a name of a demon. And those people, they approach people like me and ask them if they can get certain stuff for them. In my case, it was human remains. So this person, who was acting as a middleman, asked me if I could provide him human remains for the rituals. They use human remains, skulls, mostly skulls, bones, okay? they will not go to the graveyards to get them, all right? They will send other people to do their biddings for them. Since they're people in power, they also will pass laws to prevent, for example, the possession of human remains. So they get the exclusivity, if you will, of having access to those things. There's a lot of doctors, people who work in the health industry, and surgeons, etc., who are part of this brotherhood. So it's easier for them to help them have access to specimens, medical specimens, but sometimes they want specific remains from specific graveyards for their rituals. I do not know the details of those rituals. All I know is that they want, for example, the skull of an infant, or something really unusual, something that they wouldn't have in any other way. So I had heard stories from other convicts when I was in prison about those guys and how they approach you to do their biddings. Plus, I knew stories of actual serial killers and people who were involved in cases involving torture that were working for people like that. There's this famous case in France that happened in the 80s. They found this woman in a street in a very, very quiet town in France called
Really setting this thing down.
She was running naked in the street. She had escaped from an ordinary, very ordinary little house in a dead-end street, and she told the police that she had been kept there for several weeks. She had been tortured. They had carved symbols on her, and people were actually paying to torture her. So it was a ring, an actual ring of people who were actually paying the owners of the house to torture her. This really happened. This was a major case in France. She said that there was another girl who they found with her inside this house, in the cellar of this house. She had been tortured too. She told the police that the man who was the owner of the house had a list of 15 people who were regular clients who were paying a lot of money to come to that house and torture young girls. They were also filming, it's important to say, they were filming on VHS the tortures. So the police raided that home. They found the list. The list was kept in a safe in the police station. And I think it was a few days after, or maybe the day after, the list disappeared. Nobody knows what happened to the list. Some people who are close to the investigation say that there were names of politicians on the list, people who were really famous back in those days. And what's interesting too is that person was actually a henchman for that, what he called an organization, because he talked a little bit to the police, not much because he kept lots of secrets, this guy. But he said that he was harvesting blood and organs to people, but he never said anything more. Okay. He mentioned to one of the girls who they found alive that he had been doing this for 15 years. And they were moving each time, going from... They were moving all the time. They move at least 10 times in the space of 15 years. They had many, many, many victims. And he mentioned to one of the girls while torturing her, she would end up in a shallow grave somewhere, that nobody would find her. You know. The thing is, I met people in prison who had been in the same prison as this guy, and this guy would talk a lot. You know, in prison you don't really know what to do to spend time, and sometimes you brag about what stuff you've done or what. And yeah, he bragged that he was part of an organization connected to people who belong to that brotherhood. So that's one piece of the puzzle, just one piece. And I heard other pieces of the puzzle and connect the dots. He was connected to another serial killer who was called Émile Louis. Émile Louis was convicted of at least 10 murders in the same region, the same town as this guy. Auxerre, and it's like 10 minutes drive away from Appoigny, the town where there was the murder house, the torture house. And this other serial killer was working for an institute for handicapped women, and they disappeared. So 10 of them disappeared. The
Wow.
case was unsolved for many years. Then they arrested him. He was the bus driver for that.
Of course, so they've disappeared on the bus and they're coming back.
Again, there was rumors that he was harvesting maybe organs or blood, etc., for the local members of the Brotherhood. So all those are stories I heard from different people in prison, people I knew who were part of satanic cults, who were approached to. I've lived in several countries in Europe. I've lived in Sweden. I've lived in the UK. I've lived in many different places, and I've met a lot of different people from the satanic underground. There's always rumors. You have to understand that there's those small organized satanic cults, no more than 10 people perhaps, who are doing their stuff on their own. And there's those, Luciferian cults who pretend to act as legit organizations. So they infiltrate groups like the Brotherhood, and they use the power that they have through those organizations to commission murders, commission crimes. There was also a similar case in Italy with the Monster of Florence. The Monster of Florence, they arrested a guy for this series of murders in Florence, in Tuscany, and it was 6 couples each time. The women systemically were mutilated, their sexual organs were mutilated. Somebody who was really close to the main suspect, who was arrested, was mysteriously found in a river, dead, during the investigation, and he was high-ranking member of the Brotherhood.
Oh,
So
of course.
each time you have cases like that, of course, there's serial killers most serial killers, they act on their own. They're not part of anything. They just have those impulses and they act upon those impulses. But sometimes the murders are linked to something else. And this is my experience. My experience talking to people, being approached by those people.
So have you ever heard from anybody of these people asking people to murder for them, or even stuff like procure children or anything like that?
I've heard about harvesting, that they were looking for organs. When I was working in a morgue, I remember one day there was this person I knew for a long time who told me that he had been approached by a person to get organs. He didn't know what it was for, but this person offered him a lot of money for having specific organs. When it happened, he thought it was about a cult, some kind of devil worshipping cult or etc. He didn't know what it was about, so he just told the person to leave him alone. But when you work in morgues, you hear those kind of stories all the time. People approach you, they tell you that they will give you this amount of money to get something. There was even something that happened recently in the place where they donate bodies in Paris, when you donate for science your body. And they found out that some of the people who were working there were actually selling body parts. So the trial is going to take place soon. They arrested a few people at one of the guys' place. They found plenty of organs. They found skulls. They found human remains that he had stolen from the center for donation. These kind of things happen, and when you work in the funeral industry and the death industry, you hear those stories. And sometimes you're approached by those people. Yeah.
What else do you want to say about the Brotherhood in this video? Like, how big do you think this thing goes?
I just know about France, so I can give you numbers about France. There's officially 50,000 members of the Brotherhood in France. 50,000. I would say the really dark shit, the harvesting, all those things, and the trafficking and all those dark things that are going on, probably no more than 100 people are involved in this. Otherwise, people who know about what's going on, but they keep it secret.
Too many people.
The organization is extremely secretive. Sometimes they have museums and things like that, where they can tell you their version of their story. But I would say that most people who are part of this organization, they don't know what's going on in the higher grades. There's 33 grades in that organization, and I would say only the people who are beyond the grade number 30 are aware of what's going on. But they prepare you. Each time with a different ritual, they invoke a different demon in the ritual, so mentally you're prepared to understanding that it's not about progress and humanity. It's more about personal wealth and power, and at the end it's what they're looking for. This is why they infiltrate governments. This is why they infiltrate big companies. I wouldn't care if it didn't involve kids, children. I wouldn't care. But the problem is, from what I know, they are behind this shit. They are behind this shit to some extent because it's part of their spirituality, in a sense, if you will. They believe in sacrifice. They believe in human sacrifice. They can't do it on a mass scale, of course, because you don't do those things anymore, but they still believe in human sacrifice, and they have other ways to actually do this. The whole thing about, for example, the satanic panic in the 80s, it was a smoke screen for shadier stuff that was going on in the higher scales of society. They used, Satanism and, people who were playing Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff, just as scapegoats for what was going on in those secret societies. They've always used Satanism and
or is it a trip?
Small satanic cults to get the attention away from them. But they are doing the shadiest things. They are involved in all those snuff movie rings and all those things that are going on. They are the ones who are involved. It's simply, when you think about it, when it's only about 10 guys dressed in black, invoking the devil in the woods, they don't have the resources, the funds to be at the head of such organizations. It's always extremely wealthy people, individuals, who commission other people to do their biddings because they don't want to get their hands dirty.
So why would they want human organs?
You have to understand what's behind. The principle behind is an offering to their god. Okay? According to their belief. And again, I'm saying it's their belief, not mine, not yours, not the viewers. But they do believe, because of the secret society they belong to, that blood and human organs, they have something inside it, some kind of magical property that will grant them some degree of immortality. Not immortality of the shell, the human shell, but immortality of the soul. This is what their society is about. Okay? They also believe that the torture of individual, the ritual torture of individual, like what happened in that house in Appoigny, increases adrenaline in the body, and adrenaline grants special properties to blood. It's a very ancient belief. Most civilizations that practiced human sacrifice believed that torturing their prey or their victims would appease the gods. So that's the ideology behind this.
And then I guess my last question about the cults is why our interview and stuff today was going to be totally unrelated to this, but you brought this up. Why do you feel the need to speak on this?
As I told you, I've been approached several times. I've been told these stories and I've connected the dots over the years. Personally, I'm fed up with hearing that it's always satanic cults which are behind those things, that those people belong to satanic cults. I said, and it's the difference is important, it's not satanic, it's Luciferian. And Luciferian is a totally different thing. It's devil worship too, if you're a Christian, of course. For you, there's no difference between Lucifer and Satan, but when you practice magic, when you're an occultist, the two entities are totally opposite. Lucifer is about power, is about spiritual enlightenment, it's about fire. Okay, the element is fire there. And it's about developing your inner self to become like God. So their pursuit of spiritual immortality is akin to becoming a god. Whereas, as a Satanist, when you're a Satanist, the etymology of Satan in Hebrew, it means adversary. And you're an adversary of society and the system, if you will. So it's like being a spiritual anarchist in a way. You have no masters, you only follow your rules. Of course, there are bad Satanists who they are, deviates, perverts, etc., who use Satanism to achieve their goals. But there's also people like me who have their own morals, they have their own boundaries, and they only follow their rules. They do not bow to gods, they do not bow to governments, they do not bow to systems. They follow their paths and they do what they have to do. But they still use black magic because that's the common link to all this. Whether you're a Satanist, whether you're Luciferian, you all use black magic. Me, as an artist, I use art as a magic form. I get my energy from the objects I collect, from the things that surround me, but it's also my own blood. I use my own blood for my art. This is what I do. And if you know a little bit about magic, you know that the blood of murderers have magical properties. Back in the medieval times, for example, when there was a pure public execution, after hanging, for example, witches would come to the executioner and buy a piece of rope or hair from the person who was executed, especially if he was a murderer, even more if he had murdered several people. So there's always been magical properties attached to the blood of the murderers and the artifacts that are linked to murderers. It's a very powerful magic, and this is a magic I use. And this is how I find my balance and I found my position in this world. Now, it's not a question of morals. I've never used the word good or evil. I don't believe in those concepts. I think they are concepts invented by the people in charge. And back then, the people in charge were priests. So they would tell you what to do and they would tell you this is good, this is bad. This is good, this is evil. Okay? When you understand that, you are beyond good and evil. And you make your own rules. And me, I know what my rules are, and I also understand the motivations behind some of those cults that are behind those things. And I do not have any sympathy for them. So I think it's important with your work to expose them. So you're exposing certain elements, you've exposed certain elements. Me, I have this little, things that I showed you, that I will show you. All this help put the pieces of the puzzle together, I think. Now, I'm pretty sure that most of you will think that this is just a conspiracy theory, that it's paranoia or whatever. But I'm talking about things from my position, my perspective, and things I've seen, people I've talked to, people who were prominent members of the satanic underground. And yeah, it's important to make a difference between the two. There's people who pretend to guide humanity towards progress, towards the light, but the light truly is Lucifer, and the light serves their own agenda, their own purpose.
So, we didn't know exactly what we were going to investigate, but we knew that we had to investigate something. I mean, we had
Right.
spent a pretty significant amount of time out there that day at the sacrificial spring, and so we felt like if there were any energies around there, that they would have been attracted to us, and they might have followed us back to Nico's place. What you're about to see is incredibly disturbing, and the answers and responses that we received from our devices absolutely blew our minds. But we knew we had to press this further to investigate this matter further, because we were there in France to find the truth.
All right, guys. So right now we are in Nico's office, and we are about to start a little paranormal investigation in here. I'm definitely excited to see what kind of energies could be in here. And have you ever done a paranormal investigation in here?
No, not here. No.
Well,
It's us.
You want to hold this one?
Uh-huh.
Maybe you'll know some of those words. And how about let's start with you, Nico?
Yeah.
Just calling out to anybody or anything.
Gotcha. So there
that
might be other
in
clips
here.
from this that might appear in future videos.
If there is any entity attached to this place, make yourself known and tell us your story, if you can.
Cirrus.
Under an arch. Cirrus under an arch.
Is this astrology? Sirius. Is this the planet Sirius? Sirius. How do you spell Sirius?
Cirrus.
Now, this is very strange. In the moment, none of us connected this, but the group that we are discussing today, with those bad apples at the very, very top, the arch is an incredibly important symbol amongst their members. It's a symbol that they use and refer to all the time, and it's very important in their group, if you get what I'm saying.
What was that? Travelogue. Grotto.
Now, weirdly enough, we didn't connect this at the time either, but there's an offshoot of this group in America called the Mystic Order of Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, otherwise known as the Grotto. Is this just a coincidence? Or is there something
Very
darker
interesting.
at play?
It won't leave.
Whoever's here, if you see those red lights over there, you could touch those to show us.
Nope.
You could touch those to show us that you're here.
They wait.
Or just use your voice.
Nobody talks to us.
Well,
Why?
we're talking to you.
Chairman. Can you give us a clue as to which object you're attached to?
Centrist. It's a centrist.
Ten spirits.
10 spirits.
10 spirits football.
So there's 10 spirits in here?
Emphasize. Cyril. That's a first name, Cyril.
Beatrice.
Beatrice.
10 spirits, Cyril and Beatrice.
Those are two names.
Either of those names mean anything to you?
No. Beatrice sounds vaguely familiar. Serial killer. Convulsively.
Nasty.
Yeah, probably. There's some nasty things going on.
Pass it on.
Ever ready. What do you mean? The spirits are ever ready?
Maybe.
Behold. Mm-hmm.
What are you trying to show us?
Now, we didn't connect this at the time, but the word behold is very, very important to some of the people that we were speaking about in this video. Once again, I want to remind you that we aren't assuming that everybody involved in this group is evil. I don't believe that. That's not the case. But you can't ignore this evidence.
Very interesting phrasing, yes.
This?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Woods.
There's bad energy.
You think there's bad energy with me and Colin?
It depicts.
Or
The paintings. Fake.
are you attached to one of the paintings? Is that what you were saying? There's a lot of art in here.
Tell people my story.
Uh-huh. What is your story? Embryology.
Dairy.
Embryology.
Like an embryo?
Gary.
Oh, it's listing off a bunch of fucking names.
Insomnia.
It said dreams at the beginning.
Yeah.
Epiphyseal. Those are all medical terms.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then rings the bell.
Oh. Campfire.
Campfire magic.
Reply.
Ah, this rings a bell, yeah.
This rings a
Yeah,
bell.
thank you for ringing the bell. Campfire, yeah, that's... Yeah.
What's campfire magic mean?
I
to you?
like using this.
We were talking about fire earlier.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
Do you like magic?
You like fire? Amadeus? Wow. It means the love of God in Latin. Treasure.
Really?
And the love of God, treasure. Which God are you talking about? There are so many gods.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's really bizarre.
There's something in there that has a high spiritual value, maybe? Catchy. Atlas.
Violent.
You know what Atlas is? It's the ancient god who carried the earth on his shoulders. We were talking about Gaia, which is the mother goddess earlier today. That's very interesting for me. Atlas.
That's a little freaky.
That's very freaky.
If it was just Connor and I, we would not make that connection.
Yeah.
I'd be thinking like a
Pitch.
fucking,
Pitch.
maybe like a map.
Moistened.
Church. Moistened church.
Ugh.
Moisten.
Thanks.
It's a moistened church.
Wet church?
Yeah.
Oh.
The source?
Maybe where sacrifices were
What about
made.
the fucking sacrificial spring today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides? Did we bring energy from the source? phase.
Short phase?
Phase. Short.
Could that be like a moon or like lunar term? Like a short phase?
A-Z-Z-E.
Oh.
Phase.
Mason.
Oh, the fuck?
Oh my
Watch out here.
Okay.
Watch out here, Mason.
This cannot be a coincidence. I'm sorry, but this cannot be a coincidence.
That's f***ing insane.
That's advice.
Maybe advise us to not f*** with the
Alright,
Oh.
so
watch
it
out
did
here.
say watch out.
I'm gonna tell you, this only gives me full for more. Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah, so if you...
That's totally nuts. That's totally nuts. Advice. Huh? Post-process?
Post process?
camera just died. Middle of recording.
What the f?
Just completely fucking died.
There should be another battery out there. This is crazy.
Mesa. Honestly,
What's the chances?
there's no chance. No, not within a million.
No.
That's very
And the
true.
word bank that this can choose from is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
Even this goes through, I think there's like 75,000 words on this word.
Adversary. I'm not cheating you. I said the word at least 10 times today. Etymology of Satan. In Hebrew, it means adversary. And you're an adversary of society and the system, if you will. I am
Just curious where we're at. Got about
I
half
was
hour left.
sleeping.
neurosis. Okay, the fact that it said adversary, which is not a word that you use
No.
every single day, and that I use it in a certain context.
Burn?
Burn!
It said adversary.
Okay.
Wait, what? Isn't that the
Yeah,
word?
adversary.
And then burn.
I said the word adversary several times today, and it's not a word you use in everyday language.
No.
Burn. Mason.
Receptionists.
I use that fucking word also.
That's crazy as hell. And I
They
was
apply.
sleeping.
They apply. These words apply.
It will not.
You will not.
Tell us more about the adversary, maybe. The adversary. Can you tell us more about the adversary? Why this one?
Oh my god, that just fucking died in his hands.
Keep going.
Keep going, counter.
Keep going. It keeps driving us somewhere.
We were talking all day about a certain group and fire and sacrifices and
Yeah.
worshiping the light and God of the sun.
Spirits.
Again, 10 spirits.
So we got 10 spirits on our device twice, and that has some meaning to this group. According to a legend that was embraced by this group, there was a count in Italy who captured 10 spirits in glass jars. A king, a queen, a knight, a monk, a seraph, a nun, a miner, an architect, and 2 other spirits, one blue and one red. The count's name was Count Kufstein, and he was, like I said, from Italy. The spirits were said to be small, initially just a few inches in size, and were captured in jars filled with a clear liquid, possibly holy water. They were dressed and assigned certain roles, and the Brotherhood members of this era were captivated by the idea of transcending the ordinary and the occult practices of those like Count Kufstein. And those occult practices were seen as ways to tap into higher forms of wisdom. The Count's experiments, particularly his supposed success in capturing spirits, were whispered about in the lodges of Vienna. So this was a common talking point throughout the Brotherhood in Europe. This count had allegedly captured spirits
Interesting.
in jars and was using them for rituals. According to this article that I found on an alchemy website, the captured spirits also played a role in the Count's interactions with other members of the Brotherhood, and on several occasions he invited prominent members of these secret societies to Graustein Castle to witness the spirits in action. These demonstrations were highly secretive, with only a select few allowed to attend. The spirits, according to witnesses, would move within their jars, change color, and even speak in a faint, barely audible voice. So like I said, this count had captured spirits in jars. The members of the Brotherhood in France took interest in this, and they started implementing some of his findings into their own practices. But now this is interesting. One of the most mysterious predictions attributed to these spirits involved a series of numbers, 89, 30, and 48. At the time, the meaning was unclear, but it was later interpreted as a reference to significant historical events. The numbers were thought to symbolize major revolutions. 1789 was the beginning of the French Revolution, then 1830 saw the July Revolution in France, and 1848 was the year of widespread revolutionary upheavals across Europe. So I think it's safe to say that French members of the Brotherhood would know exactly what we were talking about if we brought up the 10 spirits. I mean, this can't be a coincidence, can it?
Okay, can I say something?
Very curious. Also, a lot of that imagery is from Bride of
Before we were
Frankenstein.
doing this, I was not expecting anything tangible, something that would actually really work, because of all this
Of
chaos
course, they would
surrounding
borrow
us.
that for some of the
The
imagery in
objects
that
they
movie.
can be very chaotic.
Yeah.
But the fact that the readings we get, they point to one direction, and things that we mentioned today all day long, that's very, for me, that's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, I have to see what I was saying, like how all these devices work in tandem and they'll tell like a f***ing cohesive story. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Children here.
Children here.
Wow.
so on the break there, we had to get batteries because all of our stuff died, even the device in his hand.
That's weird. It all died at the same time.
Honestly.
That device died. My camera completely fried.
And it said stuff about children, one lost soul, teeth. And
Yeah.
it seems to all be connecting to our interview today about the cult and,
Associated.
It's
Associated.
with the cult.
Yeah.
and the torture.
Environment.
Burn!
Burn, it's the second time it says
On a
that.
completely different.
Yeah.
tip.
That's fucking crazy.
Fire is the element there.
Is that what you're talking about? Fire being the element?
Dry.
Dry environment burn. Now that's a strange string of words.
I'm interested by the choice of words. Adversary. 100.
A story.
Enhancing. I was talking about a certain product that enhances your senses. Guarantees.
Guarantees enhancements.
I mean, the fact that it said Mason is crazy.
Yeah, for me, two words. Mason, adversary.
Oh yeah, the adversary
For me,
is insane too.
Yeah, the adversary, the word itself, which I use specifically several
She
times
spares
today.
people.
Forge.
Plenty of
I told you
talk
about the
certain
god
groups,
of
yep.
Forge, two-ball cane, that's
Oh
used in
my
the rituals
God.
of the Brotherhood. The god of the Forge. We specifically mentioned the god of the Forge today. It's not a word that appears out of nowhere.
Like, forge. Any other day, that
And
would make no
burn.
sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Anderson.
Yes.
This is nuts.
What's he trying to say?
It's trying to say that everything that we mentioned today, everything that we talked about, is real. Strings.
All the
I mean-
strings are attached.
The important words for me were Mason, but adversary too. And I think of myself as an adversary of that particular group. Mayor.
It's
There is a portal nearby.
there's a portal nearby.
I mean,
Yeah, in the
that
portal.
I want to ask,
Forwarding.
did a child spirit follow us from the sacrifice grounds, the spring today, with those statues? of Gaia and
Lug.
Lug. If a child followed us and you're talking to us about the sacrifices, tap that bell again or touch one of these red lights like that.
Brown hair.
Brown hair. Evident. It says evident there.
What the f with evident brown hair? Did you have brown hair? Are you saying? LOL.
Yeah, well, no. Can't be that.
So you had brown hair and you followed us from the spring.
Hurry.
Hurry.
Are you saying for us to hurry up so the sacrifices stop? Can you ring that bell?
It kept saying too, please share my story.
Mm-hmm.
Share my story. Is this a story we talked about today? Demands.
Demands. If you heard us talk about that story today, can you ring that bell again or touch one of the lights?
Bidding.
Hate crime.
Hate crime. Wow. Were you the victim of a hate crime? Or do you think you were the victim of a hate crime? Growing.
Mock.
Mock.
The statues.
Yeah, they were mocking Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
Those statues that we saw earlier today. Is it a hate crime against Christianity? Is that what you mean? Net.
Dude, this is fucking freaky.
I know.
Aside.
It was an accident.
Hate crime, it was an accident? Just a different person talking?
Yeah, I don't think those go together.
Semiconductor.
Stabbed.
Stabbed.
Wow. We had strangle, now we have stabbed.
Struggle.
Stabbed, strangled,
It's saying
struggled.
a lot of stuff that are like going hand in hand with like death.
Must struggle. Tested on.
Farm.
Brown eyes, brown hair.
Brown eyes.
Brown eyes, brown hair.
Brown eyes, brown hair. Spotlight. Mm-hmm.
So you had brown eyes and brown hair?
You were on the spotlight. They put you on the spotlight.
Do you want the spotlight?
Tortured!
Oh, there we go.
You were tortured.
What the f***, man? All day talking about torture cases?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That is f***ing crazy.
Give that battery.
Did any of the things we saw today have any meaning for you? They do. Slovakia? Mm-hmm. What's going on in Slovakia?
Sun.
Son. S-O-N, but it could be phonetic.
Donald.
Couldn't the sun be sun worshipping?
Yeah.
If you
Maybe.
go phonetically?
Scrape.
Scrape.
Scrape the surface?
Are we scraping the surface of something bigger? Township. Honestly, what really triggered me is the mention of everything we talked about today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
All right, we're going to try to use a different device. Is there any other words that you want to tell us before we turn these off?
A couple.
Oh, what?
Oh, go on.
Okay, you get 2 more words. What do you want to say?
Hampton.
Balance.
Hampton Balance.
Okay.
Nothing.
Dose box.
That's what we're about to do.
That's weird. So we'll just go around in a circle and ask questions and just wait like 15 seconds between questions.
Okay.
Alright, I'm gonna start this. What do you know about the cult of the Brotherhood that we were just talking about?
Were you sacrificed?
Sam, a little distracted is an understatement, but I'm still keeping as much focus on here as I can. I've had some frustrating mail film, and anyway.
Were
Still a lot
you
of crazy stuff
sacrificed
coming
during
out
your
of this
ritual?
Were you sacrificed at the spring that we were at earlier with the statues?
How many victims are there from the sacrifices?
Were you sacrificed with a knife? A curved knife? Was this
From
knife
nothing to constantly going off all of a sudden with questions.
held by an executioner?
Alright, I'm gonna pause that there. What the f?
What does it say?
Lots of bodies.
Jeez.
Right when you ask how many, it starts painted neck. That's crazy. Were you sacrificed?
Thousands?
Thousands. Lots of bodies.
Is that-
Thousands. Alright, let's listen.
I was cremated.
What do you know about the cult of the Brotherhood that we were just talking about? Were you sacrificed?
It almost sounds like
Sounded like a try to say sacrifice, yeah.
During your ritual? Were you sacrificed during your ritual?
Hard to say. Maybe.
Were you sacrificed at the spring that we were at earlier? With the statues?
Ooh, yeah, that was very clear.
How many victims are there from the sacrifice? knife. My paws go upstairs.
Hide. Hide footsteps. Hide fresh footsteps.
Hide fresh footsteps out at the ritual area.
Freaky.
Well, there's a lot of voices on there.
1960s.
We'll have to go back and listen to those later with some ability to slow down. Well, are you ready to do our final experiment?
Let's do it.
This is
That's wild stuff.
Hey everybody, it's Colin here.
The
Wonderful
weekly
lucky
giveaway.
viewer of Smash. Give y'all 10-6. So go comment. You can comment me for listening to my little spiel. I love you guys.
we're about to do the Estes method. Nico's never done one of these before.
Somewhere.
Alright guys, I'm turning this on. Now, let me...
Julia.
Julia.
Fireboat. What does that mean?
Ordaining.
Daniel?
You
Good spirits here.
burn me up.
Good spirits.
You burn me up.
You burn me up.
Fireboat.
We were talking about fire today.
The gold gong's ringing.
And then this rings.
Yeah.
Who are we talking to right now?
Oh, I just heard a scream like,
George.
Erskine.
the fire?
Erskine, I think is the name of a serial killer. I've read that name before.
George.
The photo.
Photo.
Oh, I kind of feel a weird cold coming around me.
There's
Ooh, I just heard torture and trouble.
Is there anything you want us to know?
Oh, why?
Incel.
We talked about incels today.
Is that what you're talking about? The sacrifices in the park?
Captain!
Inception. That's not a word you really use a lot.
I
Inception.
just heard a like that.
Inception.
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat, yeah, that's a French word.
Coshed.
None of them are good.
Uh-huh.
Do you know of the Brotherhood that is sacrificing people in darkness?
In
With
darkness.
a knife.
With the knife, yeah, they do sacrifice with the knife, yeah.
So evil.
They are evil, yes. Can you tell
The
us,
dogs.
Can you tell us where they
Ugh, they like them petite.
Oh shit.
The garden.
The garden. We were in the garden today.
Where's, what's with you?
Uh-huh.
Can you tell us about the stream?
Source.
True.
Doggone.
Doggone, what does that mean?
Mason.
Bullet hole.
No way!
Again.
Again.
2 times. Mason.
I made it.
Brick by brick.
I made
Of course,
it
you're
brick
making
by
the
brick.
temple brick by brick. You're making your
Sodomy.
temple. And you're basically you're building your temple through
Multiple of them.
sacrifice. Multiple sacrifices.
Get f***ed.
Do you not like us talking about what you're doing?
They'll come.
They'll come here or they'll come to you.
The
To
number
me.
is unclear.
Outdoors.
Outdoors.
Okay, they're doing.
I just heard a
circles.
breathing like
Danish.
Gamora.
Gomorrah from the Bible.
Yup, I said it.
Calcium.
Jackass. Kiss it.
Male energy.
Male
It
energy.
does feel like a male energy.
Yeah, it does. Definitely.
Jesus is dead.
Uh-huh. Newcastle. Have you been to Newcastle?
I think we were around Newcastle.
Someone's out there preparing. The dentures are no good.
The Dentures on the wood. Okay.
Executioner.
Yes.
Silent boys.
At the same
Silent
time,
voice. At the same time.
believe
Believe us. Look at this.
Believe us.
There's a group of them.
Are they sacrificing you?
In the woods.
They are
No, it's
sacrificing
not.
you in the woods.
Nuclear.
We were next
And
to a
the power
nuclear,
plant,
yeah,
yeah.
nuclear bunker today.
cold hair.
Oh.
Cold hands.
1960s.
It said 1960s early.
Again.
That's it.
What about the 1960s?
You'll never be alone.
Maybe Manson.
Shut up.
Yeah.
Shut up.
Eleanor.
Eleanor, there's the name Eleanor now.
Eleanor.
All the money in the world.
Are you looking for power?
It's an
Well-
interesting back and forth.
Open doors.
Open doors into politics.
Inmate.
Into
Inmate. Well, yes. Yes.
I'm here.
Open-
Are you an inmate? Are we talking to an inmate? Yes. Are
The
you
answer's right here.
on death row?
Deuce.
Down again.
Je t'aime.
Dressing table.
Dressing
There's problems with the center.
center.
I miss you. A woman's voice.
Okay.
You are f***ed. Don't keep looking.
Wow.
Oh, that gave me a f***ing chill.
What's gonna happen to us if we keep
The
looking
serpent's
into it?
rising.
The serpent's rising. The salamander. Maybe.
That's just one possibility.
Ah.
The tattoo.
Tattoo. The tattoo. I have tattoos of snakes and serpents.
Predator.
I have the word predator tattooed on my belly.
Bird.
I'm behind you now.
I'm
babe.
behind you now.
You are behind me.
Hellfire.
Yeah.
See you take a dip.
Mm-hmm.
You want us to take a dip in the
Hellfire.
fire or the stream?
Pussy girl.
Oh.
Foul mouthed little thing, ain't it?
What else can you tell us?
You touched it
We touch the
Doubtless.
source, maybe.
underneath.
Underneath.
Sack.
Sack.
Hidden away. There's a sack hidden away.
Oh my! Shoot yourself
This is crazy.
Yeah.
in the north.
Chaotic. In the north.
No touching.
Well,
They are gathering energy.
Okay.
we're gonna be heading out here in a second. Is there
About
anything
power.
else you can tell us?
Yes, it's me.
Who?
Get your rocks off.
Is it Abigail?
No, Daddy.
We were talking about your mommy earlier.
Off. Oh shit. Oh my god.
Dude, this is
Dude, I feel like
crazy.
I'm about to pass out.
It's been like 20 minutes.
Sister.
Sister.
We got Mason again.
No way.
Yeah.
I feel like my shit didn't really make sense.
Oh, it did.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it made a
Oh,
lot
it
of
did make
sense.
sense. I'm gonna tell you something, and this is what I my conclusion from this reading. There's so many different chaotic energies here.
Visitor.
There's a manifestation here, manifestation there, different energies that are trying to tell us something.
Mm-hmm.
And this is
Also
why
that
there's
you're on the
such
trail.
chaos, but at the same time, there's meaning behind it. So maybe by watching the footage again, maybe you'll find some way to understand what it's all about. For me, definitely, there's two major things that came out from this séance. Bundy, that was clear.
Bundy's.
It might
I
even
got
be
it.
Carol Bundy,
Yeah,
too.
I got it in
Wait,
the
who's care?
Carol Bundy, she was the partner of Doug Clark, the Sunset Strip Slayer, and I used to write her.
What?
Mhm.
Yeah, Carol Bundy. Yeah.
The
You will see when you see the footage. You will see. Yeah.
That
Crazy
board,
shit.
like the Ouija boards that he makes.
Maybe. Yeah. Definitely.
Silly.
Yeah, honestly, this has been one of the better SS methods we've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool.
With all the and it said Inception on the Tempest, and you
Yeah.
said Inception.
Yeah,
No
it
way.
wrote Inception, and you said it. You said it.
What did I say it about?
And then you were like, or exception. You like switched.
Yeah,
Sinister.
Dude, this hood was... Alright, man.
definitely. Yeah.
Well,
Definitely. That's definitely something.
Well, that seems to be that.
At the end of the day, Connor and I were both disturbed after filming this video. These are things that I never considered could possibly even be real in the first place. That is, until I started digging into all of this myself, looking at documents, doing the research. I mean, what the hell is a gigantic pentagram doing right next to this castle? Why? Why was this built? Why was this put there in the first place if not for some sort of magical or secret society symbolism? It really is incredible to me the things that surround us in our world that we're just almost completely oblivious to. The obvious signs that we miss every single day. The things that these sorts of people do right in front of our very faces that we never notice. Now, obviously on this channel, we've dived deep into snuff film rings and how they work and the people that are involved in them. And I totally believe that all this stuff is interconnected. Just to even reiterate that story that Nico told us about the torture house. How is it possible, again, just like with so many of these stories, that the list of members that were employing the services of this torture house went missing from a police station?
I wonder how.
If not for some sort of involvement from higher-ups in either the police force or the government. It's truly bizarre. The more you dig into these stories, the more research you do, the more you realize you really don't understand anything. At least, I don't. I'm starting to get a grasp of what's really happening, but with every video that I film and every investigation that I go on, my mind gets cloudier and cloudier. There are just so many groups, so many powerful people, so many entities involved in these sorts of rings and organizations. It's disturbing. It's deeply disturbing. But that's why we make these videos, why I have chosen to go down this path, to inform people about this real evil that's happening every day. Now, back to these statues. What the hell is up with these statues?
These statues
I
are
still have
messed
no
up.
real explanation. And it doesn't sit right with me that they're just outright mocking religion,
As
especially in a place
necromancer,
where,
these-
there were
and
human
a lich,
sacrifices
these
held in the
things are
past.
Not right.
And that area definitely had a dark, disturbing energy to it. Why were
I don't
these
know why I said
statues put up in the
necromancer.
first
But
place?
yeah, as a
Is
lich,
it
these
really
things
the
ain't
true
right.
story that
I
they
can already
just
tell you
wanted
just look
to
at them.
honor
That's,
these two gods?
something weird.
Is it all related to the supposed sacrifice pond? How many people have been murdered in this very spot? Those are all questions to which, still, we don't have answers. But it's interesting. You can't find any articles online about these sculptures or statues, at least not in English, so they remain shrouded in mystery. But we'll be back next week with another video. This time it's a ghost hunt, but I do have to encourage you to always keep your mind open and to always question everything.
Very interesting. Anyways, outside of me getting a little sidetracked tonight, I hope you all enjoyed.
Once again, guys, if you want to learn about your family history, if you want to build out your family tree and research
And again,
who
I'm
you
not
are
sure
and
if
where
I'm
you
allowed
came
to
of this,
keep
you're
these
gonna have
kinda ads on. So sorry, I had to skip it. Taking the whole family to Minnesota. Alright, so that's going to be it for tonight, folks. I hope you all enjoyed. Do again check out the links down below to find out find the video from Paranormal Files, and refresh here so we can maybe just get the normal video here. There we go. Do check out the video down below to catch the original the link below to check out the original video. Check out the other links also below if you want to find my socials, my own merchandise, and all the other goodies, the other live channel and so forth. But that's going to be it for tonight. Thank you all again for watching. Hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you all again next time. Pleasant dreams.